Welcome to another reading of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table by Mr. Paul Newman. Today we read Book 2, Chapter 8, The Story of Lancelot and Elaine. For many years, King Arthur and his knights fought against the Saxons at different places all over the land of Britain. But when the great battle of Mount Badon had been fought, one of the greatest battles ever fought on British soil, there followed long years of peace, when the realm of Logres seemed to smile in a long divine summer between the clouds that were gathering thickly all over the rest of the world. And of course, your narrator forgot to mention a couple things before he started. So, we have the Dolorous, as we know what dolor means. She is imprisoned by Morgana in scalding water, the daughter of King Pelles, and in love with Lance. Actually, these are two different ladies, the Dolorous lady and Elaine, who is also the Lady of Shalott, which we will talk about later. Vocabulary-wise, redress, prowess, prospered. You redress things, you make amends. I will redress all knights who I have harmed in the past. My prowess with the lance is well known, says Lance. He has skill and aptitude. Prospered. The kingdom prospered under Arthur. Now, back to our chapter. At first there were many robbers and evil men, giants too, and wizards, against whom the knights must be ready to fight at any moment. And it was not only at the great feasts of Easter and Pentecost, Michaelmas and Christmas, that damsels came riding to King Arthur's court to seek redress for the wrongs that had been done to them. But as the years rolled by, fewer and fewer needed help. The peace of a true and holy state settled more and more surely upon Logres, and King Arthur's knights spent more and more of their time holding great tournaments at Camelot or Caerleon, growing more and more skilled in arms. It is true, but finding less and less cause to prove their prowess. Most of the younger knights rode about all over the country in quest of adventures, but the older ones waited more and more for some great thing to befall, and foremost among those was Lancelot. For long years he had been supreme, like a burrito. No, that's not right. No knight equaling him in strength and valor, in courtesy and nobleness of mind, not even Tristram or Gareth, Geraint or the young knight Percival. Only Gawain might compare with him, and they were friends so true that no rivalry ever sprang up between them. Now, from the very first day when he came to court, Lancelot had loved Queen Guinevere, and her alone of all the ladies in the world. Faithfully and truly he served her for many years, as a knight should, and King Arthur felt no jealousy, for he trusted the high honor of both Lancelot and the Queen. Which leads us to question 1. Lance is a great knight, and Arthur trusts both of them immensely. But in the long years of peace, when he was so seldom called away from Camelot on a quest, and when King Arthur needed no longer to lead his host forth in battle, both Lancelot and Guinevere began to spend more and more of their time together, more and more often without Arthur's knowledge. This is our first little crack in the foundation of Logres. Lance and Gwyn are spending more and more time alone without the knowledge of the king. In this way the first shadow of a great evil crept into Logres, so silently and so innocent in seeming that no one observed it. Neither did Lancelot nor Guinevere dream whither it would lead, but the powers of evil, seeking now more and more desperately to find some tiny loophole through which to climb into the stronghold of good, saw it and set a cunning snare for Lancelot. On a blithe spring day at the feast of Easter, which King Arthur held at Camelot, there came a hermit into the great hall, and greeting those who sat there at meat. "May God's blessing fall upon all this company," he cried. "Surely a fairer gathering of knights the world shall never see. But there is yet one place empty. Tell me of that seat, I pray you, my lord king." And he pointed with his staff to the empty place between Lancelot and Sir Percivale. "Reverend father," answered King Arthur, "that is the Siege Perilous, and therein one knight only shall sit, for so Merlin foretold on the day of his making of this table. But if another man sit there, he shall die swiftly by the magic of that siege." "Know you who shall sit therein?" asked the hermit. "Nay," said King Arthur and all his knights, "we know not who is that shall sit there." "He is not yet born," said the hermit, "but the same year he shall see the light, and he it is who shall win the quest of the Holy Grail." "But of that I come not hither to speak, rather of another quest, in the saving of a lady who is victim of wicked enchantments in the Dolorous Tower. Only the best knight amongst you can win her freedom, and that is Sir Launcelot of the Lake. Therefore I beg you to send him with all speed." For and far Sir Launcelot rode with the hermit until on a day he came to a city upon a dark hillside, with narrow streets and a great black tower at the top. Then all the people cried out as he rode amongst them, "Welcome, Sir Launcelot, the flower of knighthood! By your aid shall our lady be saved." Up to the tower went Launcelot, the hermit still guiding him into the tower, and up a great staircase until they came to a mighty door of iron. "Within this place," said the hermit, "has lain the fairest lady in the land for 5 long years. By enchantment Queen Morgana le Fay has imprisoned her out of evil jealousy, and none may free her save the best of knights." Then Launcelot set his hand to the door, and at once the great bolts and bars fell into pieces. The hinges screamed shrilly, and pressing into the room he found the dolorous lady lying in a bath of scalding hot water, as she had been bound by her wicked enemy. But the enchantment ended when Launcelot broke through the door, and the dolorous lady came back to her people. "Sir Knight," said the hermit, "since you have delivered this lady, you must deliver us also from a serpent which dwells near by in an ancient tomb." Then Sir Launcelot took up his shield and said, "What I may do to save you from evil, that will I attempt with the help of God. Therefore bring me thither." When he came upon the mountain top, there stood a great stone cromlech of 3 upright stones, a fourth laid over them. And out of this dark abode came a mighty rabbit, no, wingless dragon, breathing fire and hissing horribly. All through the long day the battle lasted, and in the evening Lancelot smote off the dragon's head. They are very, very big into decapitation in this book. Then he mounted his horse once more and rode down beyond the hill and deep into the lonely passes of Wales, until he came through the wastelands to where a mighty castle stood, half ruined and half whole, the great keep rising high above rent walls and fallen towers. Round the castle rode Lancelot, marvelling to see the desolation of it, how no weeds nor creepers, Minecraft, grew even over the fallen stones, and he came in part of the building which stood unharmed. Here 2 squires met him, and led him into the great hall, where Pelles the maimed king, or the fisher king, whom Balin had smitten long years before when he struck the dolorous stroke, sat amongst his knights and ladies at a high table on a dais above the body of the hall. "Welcome, fair knight," said King Pelles, raising one wasted arm where he lay unable to move on a golden couch. "Sit you down at my table. It is long since any knight came to this haunted castle of Carbonek, and I fear that many years still must pass before one comes who may heal me of my grievous wound. But tell me your name, I require you by your knightly honour. Tell me truly." "Sir," said Lancelot, bowing gravely, "I hold it a great honour that you should welcome me thus, and as for my name, it is Lancelot du Loch." "And I," answered his host, "am Pelles, king of the wastelands and of haunted Carbonek, but I hold a sacred trust, for Joseph of Arimathea was my ancestor, and anon you shall see a wonder." Dealing with question 3, Lancelot finds King Pelles, who is an ancestor of Joseph of Arimathea, which is also question 4. So apparently the dolorous blow did not kill him, but here we are, the past coming back once again to haunt our night. Lancelot seated himself at the table, and he noticed there was no food, no wine set before anyone there, and that a great silence fallen upon them. It should sound familiar. Then suddenly there was a peal of thunder. The door flew open, and into the hall came 3 women dressed all in white, and veiled, moving so silently that he thought they must be spirits and not women. The first bore in her hand a spear with a point of light from which dripped blood, the spear of destiny, that vanished ere it touched the floor. The second held a golden platter covered with a cloth, and the third a golden cup covered also, but seemingly to be filled with a light so pure and bright that no man might look at it. The Holy Grail. But it was with a deeper awe and reverence that Lancelot hid his face in prayer as the procession passed round the table and out the hall once more. When it was gone, a great peace and well-being fell upon all present, and it seemed to Lancelot that he had eaten and drunk more than mortal food. Sounding familiar? Maybe a Bible story about food and water and never needing other water or food? "My lord," he said in a hushed voice, "what may this mean?" "Sir," answered King Pelles, "you have seen the most precious tokens in the world, and I, the descendant of Joseph of Arimathea, am the guardian. From that cup and platter our Lord Jesus Christ ate and drank at the Last Supper. With that spear Longinus, the Roman centurion, pierced his side as he hung upon the cross, and in that same cup, which is called the Holy Grail, Joseph of Arimathea caught his most precious blood as it ran from the wound. Know, I say, that the Holy Grail has passed by you beneath that cloth. When it passes amongst you all as you sit at Camelot, the round table shall be broken for a season as you all ride forth in quest of it." When the wonder of what he had seen had passed from Lancelot a little, he spoke to his host of other matters, but many days he remained at Carbonek, but never again did he see the procession of the Holy Grail. And there we pause our story for today, to be picked up tomorrow on page 255, where we will read through 259. And then on the third day it will be 259 to the end of the chapter. Please answer the questions in your workbook. also begin thinking about the discussion question. 2. After professing his love, Lancelot goes mad because he feels dishonored. What do you think honor means? What does honor mean to you? Why do you think it was so important to knights? And finally, is it important to people today? Answer these questions. Herein lie all the questions which you should answer on GC, where this video is posted.